Hi guys, night settles gently across the broad waters of the Nile. The river moves without hurry, carrying reflections of quiet stars that have watched this land for countless generations. A warm breeze drifts over the water, carrying the soft scent of wet reeds, fresh mud, and distant fields that have rested beneath the fading light. Somewhere along the riverbank, a small oil lamp still burns inside a mudbrick home. Its quiet glow reaches only a few steps beyond the doorway before disappearing into the darkness. The villages have become still. The day's voices have softened into whispers. Sandals no longer scrape across dusty paths. Donkeys stand quietly beside simple shelters. Fishing boats rest against the shore, gently rocking with the slow movement of the river. Even the insects seem to sing more softly beneath the white Egyptian sky. This is a land that wakes early. Long before the first light touches the eastern horizon, thousands of ordinary people will begin another familiar day. Farmers will rise before the heat grows heavy. Bakers will shape dough while the air is still cool. Potters will smooth damp clay with practiced hands. Scribes will prepare their brushes. Builders will gather their tools. Children will slowly wake to the sounds of parents already beginning their work. Tomorrow will look very much like yesterday. And yesterday looked much like the day before. For many people in ancient Egypt, this was not considered dull. It was simply life. Routine was comfort. Routine brought food. Routine kept families together. Routine helped villages survive another season beside the river that gave them everything they needed. As the quiet night continues, imagine yourself walking slowly through one of these villages. The streets are narrow, packed hard by many years of footsteps. The walls of the homes are built from sun-dried mud bricks. Their rough surfaces still hold the warmth of the day, even as the desert air slowly cools. Wooden doors remain closed, keeping out drifting sand and curious animals. Inside one small home, a family sleeps together on woven mats spread across the floor. Their blankets are simple linen cloths. The room is quiet except for slow breathing and the occasional crackle from fading coals inside a small cooking hearth. There are few possessions. A basket rests beside the wall. Clay jars hold grain gathered months before. A wooden stool sits near the doorway. A smooth grinding stone waits patiently for another morning of crushing grain into flour. Nothing here is wasted. Everything has its place. Everything will be used again tomorrow. This simple order shapes nearly every part of life. Ancient Egypt is often remembered for great pyramids, shining temples, and mighty rulers whose names survived for thousands of years. Yet most people never entered a palace. Most never met a king. Their lives unfolded quietly beneath the same sun, following rhythms that changed very little from one season to another. The strength of Egyptian society rested not only on powerful leaders but on countless ordinary hands repeating familiar work every single day. One farmer watering a field. One mother baking bread. One fisherman repairing a net. One child carrying water from the river. One scribe carefully copying records. Each small task seemed ordinary. Together they created one of history's longest-lasting civilizations. The Nile itself encouraged this peaceful rhythm. Unlike rivers that flooded without warning, the Nile followed a pattern that people slowly came to understand over many generations. The waters rose, spread across the fields, and then quietly returned to their banks. Rich dark soil remained behind, ready for planting. People learned to trust this cycle. Their calendars followed it. Their festivals followed it. Their work followed it. Their hopes followed it. Year after year, the river reminded everyone that life continued through steady repetition rather than sudden change. As dawn slowly approaches, the village remains wrapped in silence. A rooster has not yet called. No ovens are warm. No grain has been ground. Only the river continues its endless conversation with the shore. The darkness feels gentle rather than empty. Above, countless stars stretch across the desert sky with remarkable clarity. Without bright lights to hide them, they seem close enough to touch. Families have looked toward these same stars for generations, finding comfort in their familiar positions as each season quietly passed. Time itself feels slower here. There are no clocks. No bells. No hurried schedules measured by minutes. Instead, people watch shadows move across the ground. They notice the warmth of the sun. They feel changes in the wind. Birds announce the morning before any written calendar can. Life unfolds according to nature's quiet signals. Soon, somewhere inside the village, someone begins to stir. An elderly woman opens her eyes before everyone else. Years of habit have taught her to wake while darkness still covers the land. She rises carefully, her joints moving slowly after another night on a woven mat. She does not rush. There is no reason to rush. She has followed this same morning routine for many years. Her hands find the small oil lamp. A tiny flame appears, pushing back the darkness with soft golden light. Shadows dance gently across the mudbrick walls. She reaches for a clay jar. Inside are grains gathered during the last harvest. She pours a small amount into a shallow basket before kneeling beside the grinding stone. The first quiet scrape of stone against grain becomes the opening sound of another ordinary day. Outside, the village still sleeps. Inside, work has already begun. Grinding grain is slow work. The heavy upper stone moves back and forth again and again. Tiny pieces of grain slowly become fine flour. The movement is steady. The sound remains soft. Dust from the grain settles lightly onto her hands and clothing. This task will take time. It always does. Nothing about it is surprising. That is exactly why it matters. Every family depends upon these familiar movements. Bread begins here. Without flour, there is no dough. Without dough, there is no bread. Without bread, the day becomes much harder. The work is simple, but its importance is impossible to overlook. Elsewhere in the village, another lamp begins glowing behind a small window. A young baker prepares his oven before sunrise. He gathers dried reeds and small pieces of wood collected during previous days. Fire catches slowly. Gentle warmth fills the small baking space. The smell arrives before the light. Smoke drifts upward through the cool morning air. Soon fresh bread will join it, filling nearby streets with a comforting scent that people have welcomed every morning for countless years. Even before the first loaf is baked, the village begins to wake through familiar sounds rather than loud voices. A wooden door opens. Sandals touch packed earth. A donkey snorts quietly. Someone draws water from a nearby jar. Children turn over in their sleep as parents prepare for another day. No one needs instructions. No one wonders what must be done. The routine already lives inside them. Every season has taught it. Every parent has passed it to every child. In ancient Egypt, routine was not simply a habit. It was a form of quiet knowledge carried from one generation to the next, as naturally as the Nile carried its waters north toward the sea. The eastern sky slowly grows lighter. A narrow band of pale gold appears above the distant desert hills. Morning is arriving once again, just as it always has. And across this peaceful land, thousands of ordinary lives begin moving together with the calm, steady rhythm that quietly held an entire civilization in place. The first light of morning spreads slowly across the eastern sky. It does not rush over the land. Instead, it gently brushes the tops of the date palms, touches the reeds along the river, and slowly awakens the fields that have rested through the quiet night. The village begins to breathe again. A cool breeze still lingers, though everyone knows it will not last for long. Before the sun climbs high, there is much to do. Every hour of the cooler morning is precious, and generations have learned never to waste it. A farmer steps outside his small home. His sandals leave faint marks in the dusty ground that will soon disappear beneath many other footsteps. He stretches his shoulders, still tired from yesterday's work. His hands are rough, and small lines cover his palms from years of holding wooden tools and woven ropes. He looks toward the Nile before speaking to anyone. The river has become part of his morning for as long as he can remember. Its quiet movement brings comfort. Some mornings the water is calm like polished stone. Other mornings a gentle breeze creates small ripples that catch the growing sunlight. Every morning feels familiar, and that familiarity gives people confidence that another ordinary day can begin. Inside the home, his wife continues preparing the morning meal. The flour that was ground before sunrise has become soft dough. Her hands move with calm certainty. She hardly needs to think about each motion. Press. Fold. Turn. Press again. Years of practice have made every movement smooth. Nearby, a small clay oven grows warmer. Soon the first flat loaves begin to bake. The smell of fresh bread quietly escapes through the doorway and drifts into the street. Before long, similar smells rise from every nearby house. Together they fill the village with a warm scent that welcomes another day of work. Children slowly wake one by one. Some remain wrapped in linen cloths for a few quiet moments, listening to the familiar sounds around them. They hear grain being ground in another home. They hear birds calling from nearby trees. They hear someone leading a donkey toward the fields. These sounds have surrounded them since birth. To them, this is simply what morning sounds like. An older daughter helps carry water from a storage jar. A younger brother gathers kindling left from the previous evening. Their parents do not need to explain these tasks. The children have watched them every day. Routine has become a quiet teacher. Lessons are not always spoken aloud. Many are learned simply by watching. As the village becomes fully awake, people begin walking toward the fields. The dusty road is already marked by many familiar faces. Neighbors greet one another with calm smiles and gentle words. There is little need for long conversation. Everyone knows where they are going. Everyone understands what the day requires. The fields stretch beside the Nile, their rich dark soil standing in quiet contrast to the pale desert beyond. It is easy to forget that only a short walk away lies dry sand that can support very little life. The river changes everything. Its annual flooding leaves behind fertile earth that feels soft beneath bare feet. Farmers bend down to examine the soil with experienced hands. They know exactly when it is ready for planting, when it needs water, and when it must be left alone to rest. Knowledge like this is rarely written. It lives in memory. It passes from grandparents to parents, and from parents to children. One season teaches the next. The farmer begins his work. His wooden hoe presses into the earth with slow, steady movements. There is no hurry. The field is large, and he understands that patience often produces better results than speed. Nearby, another farmer guides 2 oxen through the soil. The animals move quietly, accustomed to the same route they have walked many times before. Their steady footsteps leave deep impressions in the soft earth. Birds gather nearby. They search the freshly turned soil for insects and seeds. The farmers hardly notice them anymore. They have shared these fields for generations. Farther down the riverbank, fishermen prepare their small boats. The boats are simple, built from wood and carefully repaired whenever cracks appear. Each rope is checked before leaving the shore. Each woven net is examined for holes. A damaged net can mean an empty meal. Repairing it takes time. So every knot matters. One elderly fisherman sits quietly beneath the shade of a palm tree while his grandson watches closely. Without speaking very much, the older man begins repairing a torn section of net. His fingers move slowly through the woven fibers. The young boy watches every movement. One day these hands will become his own. One day he will teach another child. This quiet exchange of knowledge happens everywhere across Egypt. Not in great schools. Not inside palaces. But beneath trees. Inside workshops. Around cooking fires. Along riverbanks. Learning often arrives through repetition instead of long explanation. By mid-morning the village has settled into its familiar rhythm. The potter shapes clay collected from the Nile. His wheel turns slowly beneath practiced hands. The wet clay feels cool despite the growing warmth of the day. A simple bowl begins to appear. Then another. Then another. Each one resembles the last, yet each carries tiny differences made by human hands. These bowls will soon hold grain, vegetables, water, milk, or fresh bread. Ordinary objects quietly support ordinary lives. Nearby, a carpenter smooths a wooden plank. The scent of fresh cut wood mixes with warm dust floating through the workshop. Wood is valuable in Egypt. Large trees are not common, so every piece must be used carefully. Nothing is wasted. Short pieces become handles. Small scraps become pegs. Even worn tools are repaired many times before being replaced. The carpenter understands this without complaint. Using resources wisely has always been part of daily life. Across the village another familiar figure begins his morning. A scribe unrolls fresh papyrus inside a government storehouse. Unlike many others, his hands remain smooth. His work depends more upon careful thought than physical strength. Yet his routine is no less demanding. He prepares black ink made from soot. Red ink rests nearby for headings and important notes. His reed brush is trimmed carefully before touching the papyrus. Every mark must be neat. Every number must be correct. He records deliveries of grain. He counts baskets. He notes taxes collected from nearby farms. He writes quietly while sunlight slowly crosses the room. Outside, the sounds of labor continue. Inside, the gentle scratching of reed against papyrus creates its own peaceful rhythm. Both forms of work help hold society together. Neither could easily exist without the other. As the sun climbs higher, warmth begins settling across the land. The pleasant coolness of dawn slowly disappears. Workers wipe sweat from their faces. Loose linen clothing helps the body stay cooler, but the heat cannot be avoided forever. Still, no one seems surprised. The seasons always return. The sun always rises. The afternoons always become warm. People adjust their pace rather than fighting against the weather. When possible, heavier work is completed before midday. The oldest workers know exactly how much energy must be saved for later. Experience teaches balance. At one edge of the village, women gather beneath the shade of a sycamore tree. Some spin flax into fine thread. Others mend clothing worn thin by months of work. Conversation flows softly between them. They speak of children. They speak of neighbors. They remember relatives who visited during the last festival. Sometimes silence settles naturally among them. No one feels the need to fill every quiet moment. The steady turning of spindles becomes a peaceful sound all its own. A baby sleeps nearby in a woven basket. The gentle voices and warm breeze seem enough to keep the child resting peacefully. Not every day is easy. Some mornings bring aching muscles. Some bring illness. Some bring worry over the coming harvest. Yet routine offers comfort even during difficult times. When life feels uncertain, familiar work provides direction. There is always bread to bake, fields to tend, water to carry, tools to repair. These ordinary tasks quietly remind people that life continues one day after another. The sun now stands higher in the bright Egyptian sky. Its light reflects from the river until the water almost seems covered in tiny pieces of gold. The desert beyond the fields begins to shimmer beneath growing heat. The village continues its patient work, moving together with the same calm rhythm that has guided countless mornings beside the Nile. And without anyone truly noticing, another ordinary day in ancient Egypt continues to unfold, one familiar task after another, as naturally as the slow current of the river itself. The sun continues its slow climb across the wide Egyptian sky. By now, the cool breath of morning has almost completely disappeared. Warm air settles over the village, wrapping itself around every wall of sun-dried mud brick and every narrow path between the homes. Shadows become shorter with each passing moment, quietly reminding everyone that the hottest part of the day is drawing closer. No one seems surprised by the growing heat. They have known it since childhood. Every season has followed the same gentle pattern. The people of Egypt have learned not to hurry against the sun, but to work beside it, adjusting their pace with quiet wisdom that has been passed from one generation to the next. In the fields, farmers continue bending over young crops. Rows of barley stretch across the rich black soil left behind by the Nile's yearly flood. Small green shoots sway gently whenever a breeze crosses the open land. They are still young, but each one carries the promise of bread that will one day fill homes throughout the village. A farmer kneels carefully beside one row. He notices a small patch where the earth has begun to dry. Without speaking, he reaches for a simple wooden tool and gently opens a narrow channel that allows water to flow toward the thirsty plants. The movement is slow. There is no wasted effort. Water is precious. Every drop matters. Nearby, another farmer lifts water from the river using a long wooden pole balanced carefully with a heavy stone. The familiar device rises and falls with steady rhythm. Bucket after bucket pours gently into irrigation channels that spread across the fields like quiet branches of the Nile itself. The sound of moving water is soft. It slips through the narrow channels with almost no effort, soaking the waiting earth before continuing its slow journey toward another field. The farmers pause from time to time simply to watch the water flow. Years of experience have taught them that careful observation is just as valuable as hard work. The river speaks without words. Those who listen carefully often understand what it needs. Along another path, several boys guide a small group of goats toward fresh grazing land. The animals move slowly, stopping often to nibble dry grasses growing near the edge of cultivated fields. The boys carry thin wooden staffs, though they rarely need to use them. The goats already know the familiar route. They have walked it many times before. One of the boys begins quietly humming a simple melody. It is not performed for anyone. It simply accompanies the peaceful work of the morning. His younger brother joins him after a few moments, their voices blending softly beneath the open sky. The sound drifts across the fields before disappearing into the warm air. Nearby, a pair of white ibises search patiently through shallow pools left behind by irrigation. Their long beaks move slowly through the soft mud. Now and then one catches a small fish or insect. Life continues everywhere at an unhurried pace. Even the birds seem to understand that the day is long. Back inside the village, the workshops remain busy. The potter carefully removes several bowls from the morning sun. Their surfaces have begun drying just enough for the next stage of shaping. He examines each piece with calm attention. Tiny imperfections appear here and there. One rim leans slightly to one side. Another bowl has become a little thinner than expected. He gently smooths them with damp fingers. Perfection is not always necessary. Usefulness matters more. These simple vessels will carry water, grain, vegetables, oil, and countless ordinary meals. Their quiet purpose is enough. Across the lane, a weaver sits before a wooden loom inside a shaded room. Long threads stretch tightly from one beam to another. Her hands move back and forth with practiced ease. The shuttle slides through the threads. A wooden comb presses each row firmly into place. Again. And again. The sound is soft. Tap. Slide. Tap. Slide. The steady rhythm fills the room without ever becoming loud. A child sits nearby watching carefully. Too young to help with every task, the little girl still learns simply by observing. She notices how tightly the threads are pulled. She watches where her mother's fingers rest before each movement. She sees how patience creates strong cloth. One day these motions will become familiar to her own hands. No one announces the lesson. It simply happens. Learning arrives quietly. In another part of the village, several women gather near large stone grinding slabs. The morning's first baking has finished, but tomorrow's bread already begins today. More grain is poured into shallow baskets. The heavy grinding stones begin moving once again. Forward. Back. Forward. Back. The gentle scraping sound rises and falls like slow breathing. Flour collects beneath the stones in soft pale piles. Tiny particles float briefly through shafts of sunlight entering the room before settling onto clothing and hair. This work is tiring. Shoulders grow sore. Hands become rough. Lower backs ache after many hours. Yet the women continue with patient determination. Their labor feeds entire families. Every loaf of bread begins here. Outside one home, an elderly man sits beneath the shade of a sycamore fig tree. He is no longer strong enough to spend long days working in the fields. Instead, he repairs woven baskets. His fingers move slowly through strips of palm fiber. Each broken strand is replaced with careful attention. Children occasionally stop beside him on their way through the village. Some ask small questions. Others simply watch for a moment before continuing on. The old man smiles gently. He remembers when his own hands were young. He remembers following his father through these same dusty streets. He remembers learning these same quiet skills beneath this same warm sun. The village changes little from one generation to another. Children grow into adults. Adults become elders. The routines remain. As midday approaches, the smells of cooking begin returning once again. Clay pots rest above small cooking fires. Steam rises slowly into the warm air. Lentils simmer gently with onions and herbs. Fresh bread waits beneath linen cloths to keep it soft. Dates are placed into woven baskets. Small fish caught earlier in the morning roast over glowing coals. The simple meals are filling rather than extravagant. They provide the strength needed for another afternoon of work. Families gather wherever shade can be found. Some eat inside cool mud-brick rooms. Others sit beneath trees where light filters gently through broad leaves. Conversation remains quiet. No one rushes through the meal. The hottest hours of the day encourage slower movement. Even the village animals seek shelter. Dogs stretch beneath carts. Cats curl themselves inside patches of shade. Donkeys lower their heads, resting patiently until the afternoon grows cooler. The village itself seems to breathe more slowly. For a little while, the sounds of labor soften. A warm silence settles across the streets. Only distant birds, rustling palm leaves, and the quiet murmur of the Nile continue without pause. Along the riverbank, several fishermen have returned from the morning's work. Their catch is modest. Enough fish for nearby families. Enough to trade with neighbors. They untangle their nets carefully before hanging them to dry. One torn section catches the eye of an older fisherman. He sits cross-legged on the ground and begins repairing it immediately. Small problems are solved while they are still small. Waiting until tomorrow could mean losing valuable fish. His grandson sits beside him again. Today the boy is allowed to tie several simple knots himself. His fingers struggle at first. The rope slips. The knot loosens. The old fisherman does not become impatient. He simply unties it and shows the movement once more. Slowly. Carefully. The boy tries again. This time the knot holds. Neither of them says very much. There is no need. A quiet smile passes between them. Some lessons are understood without words. Farther along the river, a young scribe sits beneath a shaded porch reviewing the morning's records. He gently rolls completed papyrus sheets before placing them inside protective containers. His handwriting is neat and balanced. Each symbol has required concentration. Mistakes are uncommon because corrections take time. He pauses for a moment and looks toward the Nile. The bright afternoon light dances across the moving water. For just a few peaceful moments, he simply watches the river flow. Like everyone else in Egypt, his life follows its rhythm. Though his work differs from that of farmers or fishermen, he depends upon the same harvests, the same boats, the same bread, and the same quiet routines that shape every ordinary day. Nothing exists alone. Every task supports another. Every pair of hands depends upon countless others. The baker depends upon the farmer. The farmer depends upon the river. The scribe depends upon the harvest. The builder depends upon the carpenter. The family depends upon them all. This quiet web of daily labor stretches across every village beside the Nile. No single person sees the whole picture. Yet together they create something remarkably steady. Something that can continue not only for years, but for centuries. Above them, the afternoon sun continues its patient journey westward. Its light grows warmer. The shadows slowly begin to lengthen once more. The hardest heat of the day will soon begin to fade. The people of ancient Egypt know this without looking at any clock. Their bodies have learned the rhythm. Their lives have learned the rhythm. And as another peaceful afternoon slowly unfolds beside the faithful waters of the Nile, the quiet routines that have shaped Egyptian society for generations continue once again, as constant and comforting as the gentle flow of the river itself. The afternoon slowly begins to soften. Almost without anyone noticing, the harsh brightness of midday eases into a warmer light. The sun is still high above the western horizon, but its heat no longer feels quite as heavy. A gentle breeze rises from the Nile, carrying with it the cool scent of river water and damp reeds. People feel the change before they see it. Shoulders relax. Conversations become a little longer. Workers who had paused beneath shaded walls quietly returned to their tasks, knowing that these remaining hours of daylight are often the most pleasant. Across the fields, the irrigation channels continue their silent work. Water slips through carefully shaped paths in the earth, turning dry ground into fertile farmland. Tiny ripples catch the afternoon sunlight, making the narrow channels sparkle like thin ribbons of polished glass. A young farmer walks slowly beside them. Every few steps he stops to remove a small clump of mud or a fallen reed that might block the flow. It is patient work. No one praises him for clearing these channels. No crowds gather to watch. Yet without this quiet attention, the fields would slowly dry, and the harvest would suffer. Much of life in ancient Egypt depends on work that few people ever notice. The greatest achievements are often built from countless small actions repeated every single day. Not far away, two brothers repair a wooden fence surrounding a small vegetable garden. The fence is simple, made from narrow branches tied together with strips of woven fiber. One post has become loose after many months beneath the hot sun. The older brother digs carefully into the earth while the younger holds the post steady. Neither speaks very much. Their movements are practiced. They have worked together many times before. By the time the shadows have shifted only a little farther across the ground, the fence stands firm once again. Tomorrow, no one walking past will think about the repaired post. That is perfectly fine. Its purpose is simply to remain standing. The village itself is much the same. Most of its quiet routines exist so smoothly that they almost disappear into the background of daily life. Children begin appearing in the streets once more. Their small morning chores have been finished, and for a little while they are free to wander beneath the watchful eyes of older neighbors. They chase one another between the narrow lanes, their laughter light and brief before fading into the warm afternoon air. One little boy stops beside a craftsman carving a wooden spoon. He watches silently for several minutes. The craftsman smiles but continues working. His knife removes tiny curls of wood that fall gently onto the ground. The spoon slowly takes shape. The child studies every careful movement. Perhaps years from now, he will remember this quiet afternoon. Perhaps one day his own hands will carve wood with the same calm patience. Learning often begins with simple observation. No formal lesson is needed. The village itself becomes the classroom. Every street offers another skill. Every doorway reveals another trade. A little farther along the dusty road, an elderly woman sits outside her home spinning flax into thread. The spindle turns smoothly between her fingers. The soft fibers twist together almost effortlessly after so many years of practice. She hums quietly to herself. It is an old melody. Perhaps her mother once sang it. Perhaps her grandmother before that. The tune has no grand performance. It simply keeps gentle company with the steady turning of the spindle. Nearby, strips of freshly washed linen hang from wooden poles. The cloth moves softly whenever the breeze passes through. Bright sunlight has faded much of its color, leaving clean shades of pale cream and white. Linen is everywhere in Egyptian life. It wraps newborn children. It clothes farmers working beneath the sun. It serves as bedding during warm nights. It covers baskets, protects food, and provides comfort after long days of labor. Simple cloth, carefully woven, quietly supports every stage of life. Along another street, a merchant prepares for tomorrow's market. His goods are modest. Small jars of oil. Bundles of onions. Dried fish. Fresh dates. Clay cups. Woven baskets. He checks each item carefully before placing it inside larger carrying baskets. There is comfort in preparation. Tomorrow's work begins today. The same careful planning happens throughout the village. A baker sets aside grain for the next morning. A fisherman dries another repaired net. A potter covers damp clay so it will remain workable overnight. Nothing is left entirely to chance. Routine makes tomorrow easier. As the afternoon continues, the sounds of construction drift from the edge of the village. Several builders are repairing part of a storage building made from mud bricks. The bricks themselves are simple: mud, straw, water, sunlight. Four ordinary things combined into something remarkably strong. One man mixes fresh mud with chopped straw beneath his bare feet. The mixture squishes softly between his toes. Nearby, another worker fills wooden molds. When the molds are lifted away, neat rows of bricks remain behind, waiting to dry beneath the sun. Children occasionally stop to watch. Some cannot resist pressing tiny fingerprints into the wet mud before laughing and running away. The builders notice. One smiles quietly. The small marks will disappear long before the bricks harden. No one minds. The village has always belonged to its children as much as its adults. Near the riverbank, several women wash clothing in the shallow water. They kneel upon smooth stones, dipping linen garments beneath the surface before rubbing them gently with sand and water. The Nile reflects the bright afternoon sky. Tiny fish dart between waving reeds. Dragonflies hover just above the water before suddenly changing direction. Everything seems to move with calm purpose. One woman pauses from her work. She closes her eyes for a brief moment and lifts her face toward the breeze coming across the river. The cool air feels refreshing after many hours beneath the warm sun. Soon she returns to washing. There is still more to finish before evening. Farther downstream, fishermen guide their boats quietly toward shore. The sails hang almost motionless in the gentle wind. Wood creaks softly. Water taps against the sides of the boats with slow, steady rhythm. One by one they arrive at the familiar landing place. Neighbors help pull each boat safely onto the muddy bank. No payment is expected. Tomorrow another family may need the same helping hands. Cooperation has become as ordinary as sunrise. Across Egypt, villages survive because neighbors quietly depend upon one another. As daylight slowly begins its journey toward evening, long shadows stretch across the fields. Palm trees paint graceful patterns upon the earth. Birds begin gathering in larger numbers near the river. Their calls grow more frequent, though never loud enough to disturb the peaceful rhythm of the day. A shepherd counts his sheep before leading them toward a simple enclosure built from woven reeds. He does not count quickly. Each animal receives careful attention. One lamb lingers behind, distracted by a patch of fresh grass. The shepherd waits patiently. There is no reason to rush. The lamb soon catches up on its own. Patience is woven into nearly every corner of Egyptian life. Hurrying often creates mistakes. Steady hands accomplish more. Inside many homes, evening preparations quietly begin. Fresh water is carried indoors. Clay lamps are checked. Additional bread is baked while the ovens still hold warmth from earlier fires. Children gather small bundles of reeds to feed cooking flames. Older daughters help prepare vegetables. Younger sons carry empty baskets back into storage rooms. Each family member knows their place within the evening routine. No loud instructions are needed. Years of repetition have made every task familiar. An elderly grandfather sits beside the doorway of his home watching the village move around him. His working days are mostly behind him now. Still, he contributes in quieter ways. He sharpens worn wooden tools. He tells gentle stories while children gather nearby. He notices small repairs that younger eyes often overlook. Age has changed the kind of work he performs, but not his place within the family. Respect grows naturally through years of shared labor. As the golden light of late afternoon settles across the village, the ordinary beauty of Egyptian life becomes even more visible. Dust glows softly in the sunlight. Smoke rises lazily from cooking fires. Palm leaves whisper together above narrow streets. The Nile continues flowing beside it all, unchanged, dependable, eternal. Every loaf of bread, every woven basket, every repaired fishing net, every cleaned irrigation channel, every carefully copied record. Each task may seem small when viewed alone. Yet together they create a society built not upon moments of excitement, but upon quiet consistency. The people may never speak of routine as something remarkable. To them it is simply life. Morning follows night. The river follows its course. Families follow the work their parents once taught them. Children slowly become adults. Adults slowly become elders. The rhythm continues. And beneath the warm afternoon sky, with the gentle wind carrying the scent of water and fertile earth across the peaceful village, another ordinary day moves steadily toward evening, just as thousands of days have done before, guided always by the comforting routine that quietly holds ancient Egypt together. The afternoon slowly gives way to evening. The fierce brightness that covered the land only a short while ago begins to soften into gentle shades of gold. Sunlight stretches low across the fields, touching the tops of grain with a warm glow that makes each stalk seem almost alive. The breeze from the Nile grows cooler. It slips quietly through the reeds before wandering into the village streets, carrying the fresh scent of river water mixed with damp earth and the faint sweetness of flowering plants growing near the banks. People notice the welcome change. A farmer pauses for a moment and straightens his back. He places both hands on his hips and slowly looks across the fields that have occupied his attention since before sunrise. The work is not completely finished. It never truly is. There will always be another channel to clear. Another patch of weeds to remove. Another fence to repair. But for today, enough has been done. The land has received its care. Tomorrow will bring another opportunity to continue. Nearby, a young boy carries a bundle of simple wooden tools toward home. The tools are almost as tall as he is. They bump gently against one another with every step. His father walks beside him without speaking. They have shared this walk many times. Neither feels uncomfortable in the silence. The quiet itself has become part of the journey. Their sandals leave soft footprints in the dusty path, joining hundreds of others that crisscross the village before disappearing beneath the evening breeze. Along the irrigation channels, several workers make one final inspection before nightfall. Water still moves peacefully through the narrow passages. A few small adjustments are made with wooden shovels. Loose soil is gently pressed into place. One man kneels beside the water and washes the dust from his hands. The coolness is refreshing after many hours beneath the sun. He watches the current for a little while. The Nile never appears to hurry. It simply continues. Season after season. Year after year. Its quiet confidence has shaped the hearts of those who live beside it. The people have learned that steady movement often accomplishes more than hurried effort. As workers begin returning to the village, the streets slowly become livelier once again. Children run to greet their parents. Some proudly carry tiny treasures collected during the day. An unusually smooth stone. A colorful feather dropped by a bird. A reed shaped in an interesting way. To an adult these things may seem ordinary. To a child they hold endless fascination. Parents smile warmly. They remember collecting similar treasures when they themselves were young. Time moves gently in Egypt. One generation quietly follows another. Outside a modest home, a mother begins preparing the evening meal. She pours grain into a grinding stone once more, though this time the work feels slower. The hardest part of the day has passed. The village seems to breathe more deeply. Nearby, another woman kneads fresh dough with patient hands. Her youngest daughter sits beside her, pressing tiny fingers into a small piece of leftover dough. It becomes a little bird. Then a fish. Then something that resembles neither. The mother laughs softly. She does not stop the child. Learning begins with play as often as with instruction. One day those small hands will prepare bread for a family of their own. For now, there is no need to hurry childhood. From several homes, thin streams of smoke begin rising into the evening air. Cooking fires glow softly inside clay ovens. The smell of fresh bread returns to the village, joined by roasting onions, lentils slowly simmering in clay pots, and fish seasoned with simple herbs gathered nearby. The scents drift through the narrow streets until they mingle together into one familiar fragrance. It is the smell of home. It is the smell of another ordinary evening. A potter finishes shaping the final vessel of the day. He studies it carefully beneath the lowering sun. Its surface is smooth. Its walls are even. He places it gently beside many others waiting to dry. Rows of bowls, jars, and cups stand quietly in the fading light. Tomorrow some will be fired in a hot kiln. Others will remain drying beneath the warm Egyptian sky. There is satisfaction in seeing the day's work gathered together. Not pride. Not celebration. Simply quiet contentment. Across the village, the carpenter stores his tools. Each one has its proper place. The wooden mallet. The bronze chisel. The measuring cord. The small handsaw. Before leaving, he wipes the dust from the workbench with a piece of linen cloth. Tomorrow morning he will return to find everything ready. Small habits like this save time. More importantly, they bring peace of mind. Order has become another kind of comfort. As the shadows grow longer, animals also begin settling into their evening routines. Goats return to their enclosures. Their soft bleating fills the air for a few moments before gradually fading. Donkeys drink deeply from large clay troughs. Oxen stand quietly together after another long day pulling plows through fertile fields. Cats begin appearing from hidden corners. During the heat of the afternoon they rested in shaded places. Now they move silently through the village, alert once again. One pauses beside a bakery, hopeful that a few crumbs might appear. Another slips through a narrow doorway before curling into a familiar sleeping place. Even the animals seem to understand the comforting rhythm of each day. Along the riverbank, fishermen complete their final tasks. Nets that dried beneath the afternoon sun are folded neatly. Wooden oars are stacked together. The boats are tied securely with thick ropes so they will remain safe through the night. One elderly fisherman runs his hand gently along the side of his small boat. The wood is smooth from many years of use. He remembers helping his father build it. He remembers learning to cast nets from this very place. The river has witnessed nearly every important moment of his life. It has never spoken. Yet somehow it has always offered quiet companionship. The evening breeze carries the calls of water birds returning to nests hidden among the reeds. Their wings beat softly above the river before disappearing into tall grasses. Small fish leap briefly from the water before falling back with tiny splashes that disturb the smooth surface for only a moment. Nature itself seems ready for rest. In one corner of the village, a scribe finishes the final records of the day. He carefully rolls each completed sheet of papyrus. The ink has dried completely now. His writing will remain clear long after the sun has disappeared. He places the scrolls inside a wooden chest before closing the lid with gentle care. His work, like that of the farmer or baker, follows its own dependable rhythm. Every evening brings a natural stopping place. Every morning offers another beginning. The village elders gather beneath the broad branches of a sycamore tree. Some sit upon low stools. Others rest comfortably on woven mats. They speak quietly about the condition of the fields, the level of the river, and families preparing for the coming harvest. There are no hurried debates. No raised voices. Experience has taught them that careful thought often arrives more easily when spoken slowly. Younger villagers occasionally stop to listen. Not because they are required to, but because wisdom often sounds gentle. Children continue playing nearby until the sky begins changing color. The bright blue above slowly deepens into warm shades of amber and soft orange. Palm trees become dark silhouettes against the western horizon. The first evening birds cross the glowing sky in graceful lines. Parents begin calling softly for their children to come inside. Small feet hurry across dusty paths. Doors remain open while the evening air stays pleasant. Inside the homes, simple meals are shared together. Fresh bread is broken by hand. Bowls of lentils are passed from one family member to another. Dates provide a little sweetness at the end of the meal. Water from cool clay jars refreshes tired workers. The conversations are quiet. Someone speaks about repairing a fence tomorrow. Another mentions that the barley is growing well. A child proudly explains how they carried water without spilling a single drop. Everyone listens. These ordinary moments become the memories that remain long after great events are forgotten. Outside, the last golden light slowly slips behind the western desert. The warmth of the day begins leaving the earth. One by one, small oil lamps appear inside the homes of the village. Their gentle flames glow through open doorways like tiny stars scattered across the land. The Nile reflects the deepening colors of the evening sky. Its calm waters continue their endless journey north, just as they have for thousands of years. Beside its quiet banks, another peaceful day gently comes to a close. No great victory has been celebrated. No mighty king has changed the course of history. Instead, hundreds of ordinary people have simply lived according to the familiar rhythm that has shaped Egypt for generations. They have planted. They have baked. They have woven. They have written. They have repaired. They have cared for one another. And in doing so, they have quietly strengthened the foundation of a civilization built not upon moments of glory, but upon the steady comfort of routine, repeated faithfully beneath the watchful sun and beside the timeless waters of the Nile. Twilight settles over the Nile with remarkable gentleness. The last warmth of the sun lingers upon the mudbrick walls, while the sky slowly changes from soft amber to pale violet. The air feels different now. It carries a welcome coolness that has been patiently waiting beyond the heat of the day. The village grows quieter. The sounds of work slowly disappear, replaced by quieter sounds that belong only to evening. A wooden door closes softly. A clay bowl is placed upon a low table. Someone shakes dust from a woven mat outside a doorway. A donkey lets out one final call before settling for the night. None of these sounds are loud. Together they form the peaceful music of an ordinary Egyptian evening. Inside one small home, a family remains gathered around the evening meal. The day's labor has left everyone pleasantly tired. The father tears another piece of warm bread and dips it into a bowl of lentils before passing it to his youngest son. The boy accepts it with both hands, careful not to spill a single drop. Nearby, his older sister quietly slices onions onto a simple clay plate. The grandmother sits comfortably against the cool mud-brick wall, watching the children with gentle eyes. She has seen thousands of evenings like this. Each one has been slightly different. Each one has been comfortingly familiar. The conversation drifts slowly from one subject to another. The father speaks about a section of irrigation channel that will need attention tomorrow. The mother wonders if enough grain has been stored for the coming weeks. The children talk about birds they saw near the river. No one raises their voice. There is no need. The quiet evening invites slow words. Outside, another family has finished eating. Their oldest son carefully carries empty clay bowls toward a large water jar. He washes each one with practiced hands before placing them upside down to dry. Beside him, his younger brother sweeps loose crumbs from the floor using a simple bundle of reeds tied together. The work is small. It takes only a few minutes. Yet these small evening tasks happen every day. Keeping a home orderly requires constant attention. Not grand effort. Just steady care. Across the village, oil lamps begin glowing inside nearly every house. Their flames flicker gently, casting warm golden light across rough walls and woven baskets. The light is soft. It reaches only a short distance before fading into darkness. Beyond each doorway, the night quietly waits. One elderly woman sits beside her lamp spinning flax for just a little longer. The spindle turns slowly between her fingers. Its familiar movement calms her after another busy day. She no longer works as quickly as she once did. Her hands have grown slower with age. But they remain steady. Experience has replaced speed. The thread she creates is smooth and strong. She smiles quietly as she winds another length around the spindle. Tomorrow she will continue exactly where she leaves off tonight. Nothing feels unfinished. Everything simply pauses until morning. Farther down the narrow street, a young builder inspects the simple tools he used throughout the day. A wooden mallet. A bronze chisel. A measuring cord made from twisted linen. He wipes each one clean before storing them carefully inside a wooden chest. The tools have served him faithfully for many years. Looking after them is simply part of the day's work. A well-cared-for tool often lasts longer than the hands that first held it. His father taught him that lesson. His grandfather taught it before him. Knowledge travels quietly through generations. Not only through words, but through habits. As darkness slowly deepens, the sky above Egypt becomes filled with countless stars. Without bright lights to compete against them, they appear astonishingly clear. The Milky Way stretches gently across the heavens like a pale river flowing above the Nile itself. Many villagers step outside for a few moments before sleep. They lift their eyes toward the stars almost without thinking. These familiar lights have guided travelers, marked seasons, and watched over families for longer than anyone can remember. Children ask simple questions about them. Parents answer softly. Sometimes the answers come from careful observation. Sometimes from stories passed down through generations. Both become part of family life. Near the riverbank, several fishermen remain awake just a little longer. Their boats rest safely against the shore. The gentle movement of the Nile rocks them almost imperceptibly. One fisherman sits quietly upon an overturned basket. His hands continue repairing a net by lamplight. The work is slower now. The dim light makes each knot more difficult to see. Still, he continues patiently. A few more repairs tonight will make tomorrow's work easier. The river flows past him without interruption. Its surface reflects stars instead of sunlight now. The same water that shimmered brightly beneath the afternoon sun now carries quiet silver reflections into the darkness. The Nile never truly sleeps. It simply changes with the light. A faint chorus of frogs begins rising from marshy areas along the river. Their steady calls blend with the gentle chirping of insects hidden among reeds and grasses. These sounds have filled Egyptian nights for countless generations. People hardly notice them anymore. To outsiders they might seem unusual. To those who live here, they are simply part of home. The breeze grows slightly cooler. Palm leaves rustle softly overhead. Their long fronds sway together with slow, graceful movements. Now and then a dry leaf falls gently onto the ground below. No one rushes to remove it. Tomorrow it may become kindling for a cooking fire. Very little goes unused. Inside another home, a mother prepares the sleeping area. Woven reed mats are spread neatly across the floor. Simple linen blankets are folded beside them. The youngest child has already fallen asleep, curled peacefully against an older sister. The day's adventures have quietly come to an end. The parents continue speaking in low voices while finishing a few final tasks. One checks the water jars. Another covers leftover bread with clean cloth. The lamp is adjusted so that its flame burns steadily without wasting precious oil. These routines happen every evening. Their familiarity brings comfort. There is something deeply peaceful about ending the day in the same gentle way. Across the village, an elderly man slowly walks through the quiet streets before returning home. He enjoys these evening walks. The air feels fresh. The stars shine brightly. He passes homes where warm lamplight spills softly through open doorways. He hears families laughing quietly together. He smells bread cooling upon wooden shelves. He notices neighbors offering one another a final greeting before sleep. The village feels safe. Not because it has high walls or many guards, but because everyone knows everyone else. The same faces appear each morning. The same voices greet one another each evening. Trust has been built through years of ordinary days shared together. Near the center of the village, the small workshop of a potter stands silent now. Rows of freshly shaped jars wait patiently beneath woven coverings. Tomorrow they will continue drying. The day after that, perhaps they will be fired inside the kiln. Nothing needs to happen all at once. Clay teaches patience. So does farming. So does weaving. Nearly every occupation in Egypt rewards those who are willing to wait. The moon slowly rises above the eastern horizon. Its pale light gently washes across rooftops, narrow streets, and quiet fields beyond the village. The irrigation channels sparkle faintly beneath its glow. Even in darkness they continue guiding water toward the land. Their work never truly ends. The same can be said for the people who built them. Each generation repairs what the previous one created. Each generation leaves something for the next. Most will never have their names carved into stone. History may never remember them individually. Yet their steady hands shape every ordinary day. The temples stand because builders rise each morning. The granaries remain full because farmers patiently tend their fields. The records survive because scribes carefully copy each line. Families remain fed because countless unseen tasks are repeated without complaint. Egypt is held together not only by kings or monuments. It is held together by ordinary people waking before sunrise, following familiar routines, and quietly trusting that tomorrow will arrive much like today. As the night grows deeper, the village slowly falls asleep. The final lamps are gently extinguished. One by one, small flames disappear into the darkness. Only the moon and the stars remain to light the peaceful streets. The Nile continues its endless journey beside the silent village. Its calm waters whisper softly against the shore, just as they did yesterday, and the day before, and for generations beyond memory. Wrapped in the cool night air, beneath the sky overflowing with stars, ancient Egypt rests peacefully, gathering its strength for another quiet morning that will begin long before the first golden light touches the river once again. The night settles more deeply over the valley of the Nile. The village now rests beneath a sky so clear that every familiar star seems brighter than before. The moon climbs slowly across the heavens, bathing the fields in a pale silver light. Mudbrick homes, so warm beneath the afternoon sun, have begun to release the day's stored heat. Their walls feel pleasantly cool to the touch, and a gentle breeze slips through open doorways before drifting back into the quiet streets. Most of the village is asleep. From outside, very little moves. The dusty paths that were filled with footsteps only hours ago now lie undisturbed. A woven basket rests where someone placed it before supper. A wooden hoe leans against the wall of a house, waiting patiently for another day. Nearby, a pair of sandals has been left beside a doorway, ready for the first journey to the fields before sunrise. Nothing appears hurried. Even in stillness, every object seems prepared for tomorrow. Inside one small home, the glow of a single oil lamp still flickers. An elderly scribe remains awake. The room is quiet except for the faint scratching of a reed brush across papyrus. He works slowly, pausing often to rest his hand. His eyes are no longer as sharp as they once were, and the dim light makes every symbol more difficult to see. Yet he continues. Not because anyone has asked him to stay awake. Not because the work is urgent. But because he enjoys these peaceful hours. During the day, the storehouse is busy with voices and footsteps. At night, only silence keeps him company. He carefully records the number of grain jars delivered from nearby farms earlier that afternoon. Each line is neat. Each number is checked twice. When he finishes, he gently blows across the fresh ink before rolling the papyrus into a tidy scroll. His work, though quiet and unseen by most of the village, helps keep order throughout the community. One careful record today prevents confusion many months from now. Routine is often invisible. Its greatest success is that few people notice it at all. Outside, the lamp inside the scribe's home is one of the last still burning. Farther down the street, darkness has settled completely. Only the moon lights the narrow paths between the houses. A village dog slowly wanders through the quiet lanes. It pauses now and then to sniff the cool ground before continuing on its familiar route. It has walked these same streets every night for years. It knows every doorway, every family, every corner where scraps of bread sometimes appear after the evening meal. Its slow footsteps disturb no one. Even the animals seem to understand the peaceful rhythm of the sleeping village. Beyond the homes, the fields rest beneath the stars. The barley sways gently whenever the breeze crosses the open land. In the moonlight, the irrigation channels look like silver ribbons winding through dark earth. Water continues flowing softly, making the faintest whisper as it brushes against the muddy banks. The farmers sleep peacefully, trusting the channels they carefully tended throughout the day. There is comfort in knowing that the river continues its work while they rest. The Nile asks for patience. It also rewards it. Not far from the fields, reeds along the riverbank move gently with the breeze. A heron stands motionless in the shallow water. Its reflection is almost perfectly still. For several long moments, it does not move at all. Then, with quiet precision, it lowers its beak into the water before returning once again to perfect stillness. The night belongs to creatures that ask for very little. The river welcomes them all. Inside another home, a young mother wakes briefly. Her smallest child has turned over in sleep, making a soft sound before settling once again. She gently adjusts the linen blanket covering the child. For a moment she simply watches the peaceful rise and fall of tiny breaths. The room smells faintly of baked bread, warm clay, and the smoke from the cooking fire that burned earlier in the evening. These familiar scents fill nearly every Egyptian home. They are ordinary. Yet they become part of every childhood memory. The mother lies down once more. Within moments, sleep returns. Tomorrow will arrive early. Across the village, another family sleeps upon woven reed mats spread carefully across the floor. The father dreams after another long day in the fields. His hands, rough from years of work, rest quietly beside him. The muscles in his shoulders ache gently. It is the familiar ache of honest labor. By morning, much of the stiffness will fade. Then the routine will begin again. He does not resent it. He has never expected life to be easy. Instead, he finds quiet satisfaction in knowing that today's work helped provide food for his family. That simple thought is enough. Not every night is perfectly silent. Occasionally, a donkey shifts inside its shelter. A goat lets out a sleepy call. Palm leaves brush softly together high above the rooftops. Far away, a nightbird sings briefly before disappearing once more into darkness. None of these sounds disturb the peace. Instead, they remind the village that life continues even while people sleep. The moon now stands high above the Nile. Its reflection stretches across the water like a path made from silver. Small fishing boats, tied securely along the shore, rise and fall almost too gently to notice. Their ropes creak quietly against wooden posts. Tomorrow, before dawn, they will once again carry fishermen onto the calm waters. For now, they simply rest. Nearby, several bundles of freshly cut reeds lie stacked beside the river. Tomorrow they will become roofing material, woven mats, baskets, or simple walls protecting gardens from wandering animals. Nothing gathered from the Nile is without purpose. The river gives generously. The people answer with careful stewardship. Hours pass slowly. The stars continue their steady journey across the sky. Few people remain awake to witness them. Yet their silent movement has marked the passing of time for generations. Long before written calendars became common, people learned to recognize the changing seasons by watching these familiar patterns above. The heavens themselves became another dependable routine. As constant as sunrise. As faithful as the flooding river. As reassuring as the return of evening after every day. Toward the edge of the village stands a small storage building. Inside, large clay jars filled with grain rest in neat rows. The cool night air helps preserve their precious contents. Each jar represents weeks of patient work. Planting, watering, weeding, harvesting, drying, grinding. Every loaf of bread begins long before flour reaches the grinding stone. It begins here. With careful planning. With steady hands. With routines followed faithfully season after season. These stores provide more than food. They provide peace of mind. Families sleep more easily knowing that grain waits safely nearby. Preparation is another quiet form of comfort. The same thought appears again and again throughout Egyptian life. Do today's work well. Tomorrow will become easier. The village itself seems to breathe in slow rhythm. Warm air rises gently from the rooftops. Cool air drifts inward from the river. Shadows shift almost imperceptibly as the moon continues westward. There is no feeling of loneliness. Only stillness. A stillness shaped by countless ordinary lives living side by side. The people who sleep here are farmers, potters, fishermen, weavers, builders, bakers, servants, merchants, and scribes. Few of their names will survive the passing centuries. Most monuments will never mention them. Yet tomorrow's Egypt depends entirely upon them. Before another pyramid can rise. Before another temple can be repaired. Before another festival can be celebrated. Someone must grind the grain. Someone must mend the fishing nets. Someone must carry water. Someone must shape fresh bricks beneath the morning sun. Great civilizations rest upon ordinary mornings. And those ordinary mornings begin here, in the peaceful silence before dawn, while the village sleeps beside the calm and faithful waters of the Nile, gathering quiet strength for another day that will unfold with the same gentle rhythm that has guided Egyptian life for countless generations. The deepest hours of the night arrive almost unnoticed. The moon has begun its slow journey toward the western horizon, and the stars shine with a quiet brightness that seems to cover the whole valley. The Nile continues to flow with the same calm purpose it held during the heat of the afternoon and the coolness of evening. Time changes around the river, but the river itself remains steady. A light mist begins to gather over the water. It rises gently from the surface, softening the outlines of fishing boats tied along the shore. The reeds seem to disappear into the pale haze, while distant palm trees become quiet shadows standing against the night sky. The village remains asleep. Inside each mud-brick home, families rest after another day of familiar work. The walls, built from clay, straw, and sunlight, hold the cool air remarkably well during the night. Many people sleep with their doors slightly open, allowing the breeze from the river to drift softly through their homes. There is no sound of hurried footsteps. No voices calling across the streets. Only the quiet breathing of sleeping families. In one small house, an elderly grandmother wakes before anyone else. She has done this for many years. Age has changed her sleep, and she no longer rests through the entire night. She sits quietly for a moment, allowing her eyes to adjust to the darkness. The oil lamp beside her has burned out. Only moonlight enters through the doorway. She wraps a simple linen cloth around her shoulders and steps outside. The night air feels wonderfully cool against her skin. She pauses beneath the stars. There is no reason to hurry back inside. These peaceful moments before dawn belong only to those who rise early enough to see them. She looks toward the Nile. Even from this distance, she can hear the gentle sound of water brushing against the muddy shore. It is a sound she has heard every day of her life. As a little girl, she listened to it while falling asleep. As a young mother, she heard it while carrying water for her growing family. Now, in her old age, the same quiet river still offers its familiar company. Many things have changed during her lifetime. Children have grown into parents. Neighbors have come and gone. New homes have been built. Old walls have crumbled and been rebuilt again. Yet the river continues. Its steady presence gives comfort that words cannot easily describe. After a few peaceful moments, she returns inside. Soon enough, morning will begin. Until then, she allows herself the simple gift of stillness. Across the village, a watchman slowly walks along the outer paths. His task is quiet. He carries a wooden staff and a small oil lamp whose flame dances gently in the breeze. He does not expect trouble. Most nights pass without incident. Still, someone must remain awake while others sleep. He walks carefully, not wishing to disturb anyone. His sandals make almost no sound against the packed earth. Every so often, he stops and listens. The village answers with silence. Satisfied, he continues on his familiar path. Like every other occupation in Egypt, his work follows a routine. Each evening begins in the same way. Each night follows the same careful route. Each morning ends with the first light touching the eastern sky. Routine gives even the night its own quiet order. Far beyond the village, the desert rests beneath countless stars. During the day it can seem endless and unforgiving. At night it becomes calm and almost gentle. The sand reflects the moonlight in soft shades of silver and gray. A cool wind travels slowly across the dunes before reaching the fertile valley. It carries the dry scent of stone and sand, mixing with the freshness of the river. These two worlds, the desert and the Nile, live side by side. One offers challenge. The other offers life. Together they shape the rhythm of Egypt. Near the edge of a cultivated field, a young shepherd sleeps beside his small flock. The sheep lie close together for warmth and comfort. The shepherd rests lightly. Years of caring for animals have taught him to wake easily if anything unusual happens. Tonight, however, all is peaceful. The animals breathe slowly. A tiny lamb twitches in its sleep, perhaps dreaming in its own quiet way. The shepherd smiles without opening his eyes. He knows every sound his flock makes. Their familiar voices reassure him. He drifts back into deeper sleep. Along the riverbank, a pair of fishermen have risen earlier than most. The sky is still dark, but they hope to reach their favorite fishing place before dawn. Without speaking loudly, they untie their small wooden boat. The rope slides quietly into the boat. Wood gently touches wood. One man steadies the vessel while the other steps aboard. The boat pushes away from the shore almost silently. The oars enter the water with slow, careful strokes. Each movement creates small circles that spread gently across the smooth surface of the Nile. Neither fisherman feels the need for conversation. They have shared many mornings like this. Words are unnecessary. The rhythm of rowing says enough. Dip. Pull. Lift. Repeat. The sound becomes almost like breathing. Steady. Unhurried. Comforting. As they move farther from shore, the village becomes a cluster of quiet shapes beneath the fading moon. Soon, smoke will rise from cooking fires. Soon, children will awaken. Soon, farmers will once again walk toward the fields. But for now, the world belongs to silence. One fisherman looks toward the eastern horizon. A faint change has begun. The darkness is no longer complete. The sky carries the slightest hint of pale blue beneath the stars. Morning is still some time away, but nature has already begun preparing for its arrival. Birds hidden among the reeds shift gently on their nests. A single ibis calls once before falling silent again. The fishermen smile. They know these signs well. Back in the village, the first baker awakens. He does not need anyone to call him. His body has followed the same schedule for decades. Even before his eyes open, he senses that the night is ending. He rises carefully so as not to wake the rest of the household. His bare feet touch the cool earthen floor. He lights a small oil lamp. Its warm glow fills the room with gentle light. Without wasting a moment, he begins preparing the clay oven. Yesterday's ashes are carefully swept aside. Fresh reeds are arranged inside. A few small pieces of dry wood are added. Soon, a tiny flame appears. It grows slowly, filling the oven with warmth that will soon bake the first bread of the day. The smell of smoke drifts quietly into the cool morning air. It is one of the first signs that the village will soon awaken. Not far away, another family begins stirring. A mother wakes before the children. She reaches for a clay jar filled with grain. Soon, the familiar sound of the grinding stone will return. Forward. Back. Forward. Back. The rhythm has not yet begun, but it is already waiting. It has waited every morning for years. Perhaps for generations. The coming day will not be exactly the same as yesterday. A tool may need repairing. A child may learn a new skill. The river may rise a little higher or flow a little lower. Yet the foundation of the day will remain familiar. The routines will guide every hour. They will quietly shape every decision. They will give comfort when work feels difficult. They will give purpose when the sun grows hot. Slowly, almost too slowly to notice, the stars begin fading one by one. The eastern horizon grows lighter. The first gentle colors of dawn spread across the sky like watered paint upon smooth stone. The Nile catches the earliest hints of light and carries them northward. The village has not fully awakened yet. It rests for a few final peaceful moments between night and morning. It is in this quiet space between sleeping and waking that the heartbeat of ancient Egypt can almost be heard. Not as the sound of drums. Not as the voice of kings. But as the gentle rhythm of ordinary people preparing, once again, to live another simple day beside the faithful waters of the Nile, following the familiar routines that have carried their families through countless seasons, one calm sunrise after another. The first edge of the sun has not yet appeared above the eastern horizon, but the valley already feels different. Darkness no longer covers the land completely. Instead, it slowly gives way to soft shades of blue and gray. The stars begin disappearing one after another, fading quietly into the growing light. Above the western desert, the moon grows pale, as though it understands that its gentle watch is nearly finished. The Nile reflects the changing sky with perfect calm. Its surface is smooth except for the gentle circles made by fish rising now and then beneath the water. A cool mist still hangs over the river, drifting slowly across the reeds before dissolving into the morning air. The world seems to pause. For a few precious moments, neither night nor day fully belongs to the land. It is a peaceful hour. An hour known well by those who rise before the sun. Inside the village, the first sounds of waking life begin almost too softly to notice. A woven mat rustles as someone sits up. A clay jar is carefully lifted from the floor. A wooden door opens with a gentle creak. These are quiet sounds, but together they slowly awaken the village. One baker steps outside his home carrying a small basket of dry reeds. The cool earth beneath his sandals still holds the freshness of the night. He kneels beside the clay oven and feeds yesterday's glowing embers with fresh fuel. For a moment, nothing happens. Then a thin thread of smoke rises into the still air. Soon a tiny flame appears. The fire grows patiently, just as it has every morning for many years. He does not rush it. A hurried fire burns unevenly. A patient fire bakes better bread. He has learned this through countless mornings. Nearby, another family begins grinding grain. The first scrape of stone against stone echoes softly through the quiet streets. Forward. Back. Forward. Back. The rhythm is slow and steady. Soon another grinding stone joins it. Then another. Before long, the village seems to breathe through these familiar sounds. Each home has its own pace. Each family begins the day in its own gentle way. Yet together they create a rhythm shared by everyone. The smell of fresh flour begins filling the cool air. Inside one home, a young girl carefully watches her mother knead bread. She has watched this simple task hundreds of times. Still, every morning she notices something new. Today she sees how gently her mother's hands press the dough. Not too hard. Not too softly. Just enough. The dough folds smoothly beneath experienced fingers. It stretches. It rests. It is turned once again. The girl quietly copies the movement using a much smaller piece of dough. Her loaf is uneven. Its shape is uncertain. Her mother smiles warmly. There is no criticism. Every skilled baker once shaped imperfect bread. Learning follows patience. Always patience. Outside, the eastern sky grows brighter. Palm trees stand quietly against the pale light, their long leaves barely moving in the morning breeze. Birds begin calling from their hidden places among the branches. Some search immediately for food. Others remain perched for a little while, greeting the sunrise with gentle songs. Their voices drift across the village without disturbing its calm. They have welcomed each new morning long before people began building homes beside the Nile. Along the riverbank, the fishermen who left before dawn arrive at their favorite place. Without speaking, they prepare their nets. Each knot is checked once more. Each rope is gently untangled. The older fisherman studies the movement of the water. Years have taught him to notice the smallest details. A slight ripple. A change in the current. The direction of the breeze. These quiet observations matter. Fishing is rarely hurried. The river rewards those willing to pay attention. With one smooth motion, the first net spreads through the air. For a brief moment, it forms a perfect circle above the water before settling gently upon the surface. Tiny ripples spread outward. The fishermen wait. Waiting has become one of their greatest skills. Patience feeds families as surely as strong hands. Back in the village, smoke rises from more homes. The scent of baking bread slowly joins the fresh morning air. Children begin waking. Some rub sleep from their eyes before stepping outside. Others remain wrapped in linen blankets for a few moments longer, listening to the comforting sounds of another ordinary morning. They hear mothers preparing breakfast. They hear fathers gathering tools. They hear neighbors greeting one another in quiet voices. These sounds are as familiar as their own heartbeat. One small boy carries an empty clay jar toward the communal well. The jar is almost too large for him. He holds it carefully with both hands. Each step is slow. Water is precious. Spilling even a little feels wasteful. At the well, several women have already gathered. They lower buckets with practiced movements. The rope slides smoothly over polished wooden beams. Soon cool water rises from below. Each jar is filled carefully. The women speak softly while they work. Their conversation flows as gently as the river itself. They speak about yesterday's harvest. About a child who has begun learning to weave. About an elderly neighbor whose roof may need repairing before the next season. Nothing feels hurried. Morning welcomes conversation just as naturally as it welcomes sunlight. Nearby, a donkey patiently waits beside a wooden cart. Its owner adjusts a simple harness before loading baskets of vegetables. Fresh onions. Lettuce. Beans. A few bundles of herbs. Later in the morning these will be traded in a nearby village. The merchant checks each basket carefully. Not because he doubts his work. Simply because careful habits prevent forgotten things. Routine often protects people from simple mistakes. Across the open fields, more farmers arrive. The sun finally appears above the horizon. Golden light spills across the rich black soil left behind by the Nile's floods. The fields seem to awaken with it. Tiny drops of dew resting upon young plants sparkle briefly before disappearing beneath the growing warmth. The farmers pause for only a moment to watch the sun rise. Not because it is unusual. It happens every day. Yet its quiet beauty never completely loses its power. One elderly farmer smiles softly. He has seen thousands of sunrises. Still, each one feels like a gentle promise. Another day has arrived. Another chance to care for the land. Another opportunity to provide for family and neighbors. He lifts his wooden hoe. Without ceremony, the day's work begins. Nearby, two oxen slowly pull a simple plow across the moist earth. Their steady footsteps create a rhythm that blends naturally with the calls of birds and the distant sound of water flowing through irrigation channels. Nothing competes. Everything belongs together. The farmer walks behind them with patient confidence. He does not urge them forward. They already know the pace. Animals, too, become part of Egypt's routine. They learn the same paths. They rest beneath the same trees. They drink from the same places along the river. Together, people and animals quietly shape the landscape day after day. As the morning grows brighter, the village fills once again with gentle activity. Potters uncover clay prepared the evening before. Carpenters open wooden shutters to welcome fresh light into their workshops. Weavers stretch new threads across their looms. Scribes unroll fresh sheets of papyrus upon smooth tables. The entire village awakens not through excitement, but through familiarity. No trumpet announces the day. No loud command sends people to work. Routine itself is enough. It lives inside every household. Inside every pair of hands. Inside every memory passed from parent to child. The sun continues climbing slowly into the clear Egyptian sky. Its warmth begins touching the rooftops, the fields, the river, and the quiet streets between the homes. Another ordinary day has begun. And with calm hearts and practiced hands, the people of ancient Egypt step once more into the comforting rhythm that has shaped their lives for generations, trusting the Nile, trusting one another, and trusting the quiet routines that gently carry them from one sunrise to the next. The morning settles gently over the village. The sun has now climbed a little higher, but the air still carries the pleasant coolness that arrives only during the first hours of the day. Before long, the familiar heat of Egypt will return. Everyone knows it. No one speaks about it. It is simply another part of the rhythm that shapes each passing day. For now, the fields are alive with quiet purpose. Farmers spread across the rich land beside the Nile, each following work that has changed very little over countless generations. From a distance, their movements seem almost peaceful. They bend toward the earth, stand for a moment, then bend again, repeating the same careful motions with steady patience. There is no race. The crops cannot be hurried. The river cannot be persuaded to flow faster. The seasons do not listen to impatience. The land asks only for steady hands. One young farmer kneels beside a row of onions. The leaves are healthy, standing straight in the morning light. He gently brushes loose soil away from their roots, checking that each plant has enough space to grow. His fingers move carefully through the earth, feeling its coolness before the rising sun begins to dry the surface. His father taught him this work many years ago. Not through long speeches. Not through written instructions. Simply by inviting him into the field every morning. As a small child, he watched. As he grew older, he carried baskets. Later, he learned to water the crops. Now he works beside his father as an equal. One day another child will walk beside him. The routine continues without interruption. Nearby, several women harvest herbs growing close to the edge of the fields. Bundles of coriander, dill, and fresh greens are gathered into woven baskets. Their hands move gently, careful not to damage the delicate stems. The scent rises into the cool morning air. Fresh, clean, earthy. A breeze carries the fragrance toward the village, where cooking fires still burn beneath clay ovens. The smell of herbs joins the aroma of fresh bread. Simple scents. Comforting scents. The kind that become part of daily life until they are almost impossible to notice. Along one irrigation canal, a father and his young son stop to inspect the water. The boy kneels close to the edge, watching tiny fish dart between patches of floating reeds. His father smiles. "There is always life where the water flows," he says quietly. The boy reaches toward the surface but pulls his hand back before touching it. Instead, he watches the gentle current continue its endless journey through the channel. The water has traveled a long way from the Nile. It passes through fields, around gardens, beside homes, and eventually returns to the earth that feeds the entire village. Nothing is wasted. The Egyptians have learned that water is more than a gift. It is a responsibility. Each family cares for the channels nearest their land. Each neighbor trusts the next to do the same. The work belongs to everyone. Farther down the path, a group of builders gathers beside a pile of sun-dried bricks. Today's task is not a grand temple or a royal monument. Instead, they will repair the wall surrounding a grain store. The wall has protected the harvest for many years, but wind and weather have slowly worn away several sections. One builder mixes fresh mud with chopped straw. Another carries bricks from a neat stack nearby. A third carefully presses new mortar into the spaces between them. The work is slow. Each brick is placed with quiet attention. A crooked wall may stand for a season. A careful wall may protect grain for generations. The builders know this. Their patience becomes part of the structure itself. As they work, sparrows flutter around their feet, searching for tiny seeds hidden in the dust. The birds seem completely unafraid. The builders have worked here for so long that the birds accept them as part of the landscape. One sparrow lands on a nearby basket. It tilts its head for a moment before flying away again. No one chases it. The village belongs to every living creature that finds a place within it. Back among the homes, the potter's wheel begins turning. The potter places a fresh lump of cool Nile clay at its center. His foot pushes the wheel gently. Round and round it spins. His wet hands rise slowly along the clay. Almost magically, the shapeless mound begins to stretch upward. First a cylinder. Then a graceful curve. Finally, a wide storage jar takes shape beneath his fingertips. The process appears effortless. In truth, it has taken years to master. Children often stop outside his workshop to watch. They wonder how soft mud can become something so useful. The potter simply smiles. He remembers asking the same question when he was their age. Some lessons never lose their quiet wonder. Across the lane, a weaver sits before her loom. Sunlight enters through the doorway, falling across rows of tightly stretched linen threads. She reaches for the wooden shuttle. Back and forth. Back and forth. The rhythm never changes. Each movement adds another narrow line to the growing cloth. The sound fills the room softly. Wood tapping against wood. Thread sliding through thread. A peaceful rhythm. Outside, two young girls sit nearby twisting flax fibers together. Their work is slower than the woman's. Their fingers are still learning. Occasionally, the thread breaks. They quietly begin again. The older weaver offers gentle advice without stopping her own hands. "Do not pull too hard," she says. "Let the fibers find each other." The girls nod. Soon their thread grows smoother. Learning takes time. The village understands this well. By now, the marketplace has begun to awaken. Merchants arrange their goods beneath simple woven shelters. Clay jars filled with oil stand beside baskets of dates. Fresh vegetables are placed carefully where the morning light shows their bright colors. Bundles of papyrus reeds lean against wooden poles. Fish caught before dawn rest upon damp cloth to keep them cool. Neighbors arrive one by one. Some bring grain to exchange. Others carry woven baskets, pottery, or cloth. Trade happens quietly. There is little shouting. Most people know one another well. They have exchanged goods many times before. Trust grows slowly. Like crops. Like friendships. Like families. An elderly merchant greets a baker with a warm smile. Without counting aloud, they exchange bread for onions and herbs. Both know the value of the other's work. No written agreement is needed. Their years of honesty speak more clearly than any document. Nearby, children weave through the marketplace carrying messages for their parents. One delivers a basket. Another returns borrowed tools. A third proudly carries a loaf of bread almost too large for his arms. The adults watch with gentle amusement. Small responsibilities prepare children for larger ones. No task feels unimportant. Even the simplest errand teaches care, memory, and trust. As the sun continues its steady climb, the warmth slowly increases. Shadows begin shrinking beneath walls and trees. Workers pause now and then to wipe dust from their faces. A sip of cool water from a clay jar feels especially refreshing. The jars themselves remain surprisingly cool despite the growing heat. Their porous clay allows tiny amounts of water to evaporate, gently lowering the temperature inside. People have relied upon this quiet wisdom for generations. No one thinks of it as remarkable. It is simply the way things have always been. Along the riverbank, a ferry carries several villagers across the Nile. The boat is broad and steady. Passengers sit quietly while the boatman guides them with long wooden oars. The crossing is peaceful. No one seems impatient to reach the opposite shore. Instead, many watch the water passing beneath them. They notice floating reeds. A turtle lifting its head briefly above the surface. A flock of white birds rising together from the marshes. The Nile offers endless small moments to observe. Its beauty asks for nothing except attention. As the ferry reaches the opposite bank, the boatman smiles and secures the rope around a wooden post. The passengers thank him softly before continuing along dusty paths toward neighboring fields and villages. Another crossing completed. Soon another will begin. Like nearly everything else in Egypt, the work follows a familiar rhythm. Trip after trip. Day after day. Season after season. The morning continues unfolding without hurry. The sounds of grinding grain, turning pottery wheels, creaking cartwheels, gentle conversations, and flowing water blend together into the quiet music of everyday life. No single sound dominates. Each one belongs. Together they create the steady heartbeat of a society that has learned to find strength not in constant change, but in faithful repetition. Here, beside the timeless waters of the Nile, another ordinary morning moves peacefully toward midday, carrying with it the simple routines that have sustained Egyptian families for centuries, one calm day after another. The morning slowly drifts toward midday. The golden light that had gently covered the fields now grows brighter with each passing hour. Shadows beneath the palm trees become shorter, and the coolness that welcomed the early workers begins to fade into the familiar warmth of another Egyptian day. No one seems disappointed by the changing weather. The sun is simply doing what it has always done. The people adjust their lives around it, just as their parents did, and their grandparents before them. Across the fields, the steady rhythm of work continues. A farmer pauses beside a narrow irrigation channel and rests both hands on the handle of his wooden hoe. He lifts his eyes toward the river. From where he stands, the Nile glimmers beneath the sunlight like a ribbon of polished bronze. The gentle movement of its water catches his attention for only a moment before he returns to his work. There is comfort in seeing the river. As long as it flows, there is reason to hope. Nearby, a young woman carefully gathers bundles of flax. The tall green stems sway softly whenever the breeze passes through them. She cuts only what is ready, leaving the younger plants to continue growing. Patience guides every movement. Harvesting too early would waste months of careful work. Waiting too long could damage the fibers. Years of quiet observation have taught her exactly when the moment is right. Her younger sister follows behind, tying the flax into neat bundles with thin strips of woven reed. She works more slowly. Sometimes the bundles become loose. Sometimes they lean to one side. The older sister notices but says nothing at first. After a few minutes, she gently demonstrates a firmer knot. The younger girl watches closely. She unties her own bundle and tries again. This time it holds together. Neither speaks. Both smile. Learning often arrives through calm example rather than correction. Along another field, a pair of oxen continues pulling a simple wooden plow through dark soil. The animals move with steady confidence. They know the familiar route across the field almost without guidance. The farmer walking behind them gives only the smallest signals. A quiet word. A gentle touch on the wooden handle. The oxen respond immediately. Years spent working together have created silent understanding. The land itself seems to recognize this rhythm. Freshly turned earth releases a rich scent into the warming air. Small birds quickly gather behind the plow, searching for insects uncovered by the blade. The farmer hardly notices them anymore. They have followed his work every season. Nature has quietly learned its own routine alongside the people. Back inside the village, the narrow streets remain comfortably busy. Not crowded. Not noisy. Simply filled with ordinary life. An elderly basket maker sits beneath the shade of a sycamore tree. Long strips of palm fiber rest beside him in neat coils. His hands move almost without thought. Over. Under. Pull gently. Tighten. Another row takes shape. The basket grows little by little. Each strip supports the next. No single piece could hold the weight alone. Together they become strong enough to carry grain, fruit, vegetables, or freshly caught fish. The old craftsman often thinks that families are built in much the same way. Many small acts of care, repeated every day, create lasting strength. Children wander past his workbench from time to time. One little girl stops to watch. She sits quietly beside him without speaking. After several minutes, he offers her a narrow strip of palm fiber. She carefully copies his movements. Her first attempt twists unevenly. The second slips apart completely. The third begins to resemble a real weave. The basket maker nods with quiet approval. No lesson is hurried. The morning is long. There is time to learn. Farther along the street, the village well has become a place of gentle conversation. Several women lower clay jars into the cool water below. The rope slides smoothly over polished wooden beams worn shiny by many years of use. As the jars rise, drops of water fall back into the well with soft splashes. One woman laughs quietly as a small child leans over to watch the water. She gently places a steady hand upon the child's shoulder. There is curiosity. There is caution. Both belong together. Nearby, another woman balances a full jar upon her head with remarkable ease. Her posture remains perfectly straight as she begins the walk home. She has practiced this skill since childhood. To someone seeing it for the first time, it appears extraordinary. To her, it is simply another ordinary morning. The path is familiar. Each step follows the last with calm confidence. Inside the homes, preparations for the midday meal quietly begin. Clay pots are placed above small fires. Fresh vegetables are washed in cool water. Lentils are measured carefully into cooking bowls. A young boy fans glowing coals with a woven mat, helping the fire burn evenly without becoming too hot. The smell of onions slowly cooking fills the air. Soon herbs are added. Then lentils. Steam begins rising gently from the pots. The aromas drift into the streets where passing neighbors recognize them instantly. Every home has its own small variations. One family adds garlic. Another prefers extra herbs. Yet all the meals remain simple. Wholesome. Filling. Made from ingredients grown close to the river that sustains them all. At the potter's workshop, rows of finished vessels now stand drying beneath the warm sun. The clay has begun to harden. Each jar waits patiently for its turn inside the kiln. The potter walks slowly among them, inspecting every piece. He lightly taps one with his fingertip. The sound tells him whether it has dried evenly. Years of experience have trained his ears as much as his eyes. A slightly different tone reveals hidden moisture. Another day of drying will make the vessel stronger. He smiles quietly. There is no need to rush. Clay rewards patience. The village has learned that many good things cannot be forced. Bread must rise. Plants must grow. Children must mature. Even the river follows its own time. Not far away, a carpenter shapes the handle of a new wooden rake. Fine curls of wood fall gently to the floor with every careful stroke of his knife. The scent of freshly cut acacia fills the small workshop. It mixes pleasantly with the smell of warm earth drifting in through the doorway. The carpenter pauses to run his hand along the smooth handle. No rough edges remain. Satisfied, he places it beside several completed tools waiting to be collected by nearby farmers. Each tool will soon disappear into daily life. Its maker will rarely think about it again. Still, there is quiet satisfaction in knowing that something useful has been created. Something that may serve another family for many seasons. Near the edge of the village, several children help gather dried reeds. The bundles are tied neatly together before being carried home. Some will become fuel for cooking fires. Others will repair roofs or strengthen fences. The children work happily. To them, this is not unusual. Helping the family has always been part of growing up. They laugh together when one bundle proves too large to carry. An older brother quietly lifts half the load onto his own shoulder. Without discussion, the work becomes easier for both. Sharing effort feels natural. It has always been part of village life. Above them, the sky remains wonderfully clear. Only a few small birds cross its endless blue. The warmth continues growing. Soon the sun will reach its highest point. Workers already begin planning which tasks can wait until the cooler hours of afternoon. Experience has taught them to work with the climate rather than against it. The village itself seems to understand this rhythm. Activity gradually slows. Conversations become softer. Movements become more measured. No one feels guilty for easing their pace. The day is long. There is wisdom in saving strength. Across the fields, beside the workshops, along the quiet streets, and beside the faithful waters of the Nile, life continues with calm certainty. Every loaf being baked. Every basket being woven. Every channel being cleared. Every child quietly learning by watching older hands. These small moments, repeated day after day, become the invisible threads holding Egyptian society together. Not through grand speeches. Not through sudden change. But through ordinary mornings that gently unfold into ordinary afternoons, each one carrying forward the quiet routines that have given this ancient civilization its remarkable strength for generation after generation. As the final light disappears beyond the western desert, the Nile settles into another quiet night. The river has carried countless days like this upon its calm waters. It has watched children become parents. It has watched small villages grow and change. It has reflected the stars above kings and farmers alike, asking for nothing, always moving with the same gentle certainty. Tonight, the fields rest after another day of careful hands. The wooden tools lean quietly against cool mud-brick walls. Fishing nets hang neatly where they will be ready before dawn. Fresh bread rests beneath linen cloth. Clay jars stand patiently in the darkness, keeping cool water for tomorrow. Across the village, one oil lamp after another fades into silence. Families settle onto woven reed mats. Parents pull light linen blankets over sleeping children. The last soft conversations become whispers. Then even the whispers disappear. Only the quiet sounds of the ancient world remain. The steady murmur of the Nile brushing against its banks. The gentle rustle of palm leaves moving in the night breeze. The distant call of a bird somewhere among the reeds. The peaceful chorus of insects welcoming another calm evening. Above it all, the stars continue their slow journey across the sky. They have watched these same routines for thousands of years. Morning after morning. Season after season. Generation after generation. Empires rose. Kings were remembered. Temples were built from stone. Yet beneath every great achievement were ordinary people whose names have long been forgotten. Farmers who greeted the sunrise with patient hands. Bakers who filled quiet homes with the comforting smell of warm bread. Potters who shaped simple clay into vessels for everyday life. Weavers whose careful threads became clothing for their families. Fishermen who trusted the gentle rhythm of the river. Builders who repaired walls one brick at a time. Scribes who carefully recorded the harvest. Children who learned by watching, listening, and helping, until one day they quietly became the next generation of steady hands. Their lives were not filled with constant excitement. They were filled with familiar mornings. Warm afternoons. Peaceful evenings. And restful nights beside the faithful waters of the Nile. Perhaps that was their greatest strength. Not extraordinary moments, but ordinary days lived with care. The same bread baked again. The same paths walked again. The same fields tended again. The same river greeting every sunrise. Routine became trust. Trust became stability. And stability became one of the strongest foundations any civilization could hope to build. As the night grows deeper, the village becomes completely still. The moon climbs higher, covering the rooftops with soft silver light. The breeze grows cooler. The scent of damp earth drifts gently through the quiet streets. The Nile continues its endless journey northward, never rushing, never stopping, carrying with it the memories of countless peaceful days. There is nothing more to prepare. Nothing more to repair. Nothing more to gather before morning. The work has been done. Tomorrow will arrive in its own time. And when it does, the people of ancient Egypt will wake once more to the comforting rhythm that has always guided their lives. But for now, the fields are quiet. The boats are resting. The ovens have grown cool. The lamps have gone dark. The stars keep their silent watch. The river keeps flowing. And the ancient world, wrapped in the gentle embrace of the Egyptian night, slowly fades into peaceful silence. May the calm waters of the Nile carry every lingering thought away, as softly as they have carried the passing of centuries, leaving only stillness, quiet, and the comforting promise of another gentle dawn beyond the horizon.